Hope you enjoy your lunch break and that you're in good form to follow this afternoon's session. We're going to continue speaking about the future, this time about social commerce. Is it the future of customer relationships? And it's a roundtable with is moderated by Patricia Ibarra, Global Partner Manager of PrestaShop. Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot for being with us. I'm delighted to be here to moderate this roundtable that is very interesting. Social media that affects us on day-to-day basis, and especially in commerce. I'm very happy, and it's my first PrestaShop day. I'm delighted, and I've got the great pleasure of welcoming Julien Schaff from Coal Square. Welcome. And Guillaume Caravac from Facebook. Welcome. Welcome to be here to share your experience. It's great. I think we can touch upon the core of the subject, saying that most have got presence on social media. It's part of our everyday life. So what do you think the future of e-commerce will be on social media? Maybe I'll start. First, very often when people speak about social media, Facebook, Instagram, there are more than 3.5 billion connecting every month. But people do not think as much about the companies that do business on our platforms, because we are platforms that connect people, and people want to connect to one another and want to develop relations and discover new products. So today on Facebook, we've got 200 million companies that are present on our platforms and 10 million that use them on pay mode because they have advertising campaigns. So social media, it's one of the factors that participates in the growth of e-commerce, because e-commerce hasn't waited for social media to appear and develop. So it'd be pretentious to say that the future of e-commerce, that's the social media. But I think they will be part of the acceleration that we'll continue to see in e-commerce for several reasons. The first one that is obvious is that, well, people spend more and more time on the internet and on social media, and and especially on mobile devices. Almost everything is happening on mobile phones. The second point that is important to dig in is to say that for a long time, e-commerce tried to meet customers' needs. That is, it was about making, well, raising awareness about the brand, and they hoped that people would come to their site or look for them on research engines. So, people looking for products, social media, basically take the matter from the other end. It's the products that look for people. We're not there to meet a need. You need, a screwdriver. You go on a search engine, you will find what you need. But the creation of the need, this anticipation on future needs, what we've called emotional purchases, that's created on social media within our platforms on Facebook, but also more and more on Instagram. So that discovery commerce And that's why there's a true complementarity between search engines and social media, because we are not looking for the same people. On one hand, we meet a need that people have, and on the other hand, we make sure that the products find their customers, consumers. And at Facebook, we work on creating a commerce experience that is the most unified and frictionless possible, creating bridges between our different platforms. The aim today is to be able to discover a brand on Facebook, on Instagram, to be able to discover those products with the development of augmented reality, to be able to test those products and to allow to make it possible to have online an experience that you only have normally in physical shops. So how is it possible on social media to bring about the best of e-commerce and the best of physical shops, augmented reality? That's one of the answers to bridge the gap. And it's very much used in cosmetics, in furniture, etc. Very often online, when I discover products, I need to interact with somebody, with a salesperson. I have questions, and online, you know, you've got customer reviews, but it's rare that you have someone to talk to. With messaging platforms like WhatsApp or Messenger, I can also bridge that gap, and after having discovered a product, asking whether it is available, in which size, etc., or when it will be, there will be a new supply of it. And the last brick that is not yet available in France, but that is available in the US, it's the fact of proposing checkout, native payment directly on our platforms to create an experience from A to Z. I discover a brand, a product, I want to test that product, I can interact with the customer service, customer department on WhatsApp, and finally, in a few clicks, I can buy. That's why I think social media will contribute to the future growth of e-commerce. Supplement? Very much in line with what you just said. You were saying before that social media we're going to have a strong influence on e-commerce. I don't believe it's the future, it's the present. It is the case today. We can see to which extent social media, you know, take a large place in the action of buying. So we've got to understand what you know encourages us to buy. Right, it's personal, but let's say I want to change phones, and my colleague told me about his and told me that it's very good, and so his influence is going to be huge on my future potential active purchasing. It's my colleague who's going to influence me. But well, that was before social media, and today the interaction I may have with my colleagues, with my family members, that's now on social media. Before I had a physical social circle, but now every day I can go on social media and see what you know some family member who lives in the US does. 72% of consumers connect at least once a day to social media. So we follow people that we know more or less, but about whom we think that we have things in common. Um, they're influencers, or we think they're legitimate, and we follow them, and finally they're going to do the job that my colleague did, telling me about his phone, because they consume things, and it's going to influence me, it is going to make me familiar with a number of things. So it's a change of social cycle that went from physical to social, and with the use that we have of social media today, we understand that we are in recommendation. When you go to social media, there's a recommendation to buy this or that, and brands have understood it. That's why they're present on social media, and that's why they try to, you know, get integrated into that relationship between influencers and consumers. That's why social media put in place new features to make the recommendation closer to the final sale with augmented reality, etc. Payment, native payment systems. It's going to be even easier to go and buy. And I think that COVID-19 accelerated that. It's a certainty. We have seen brands who, had 5% of their sales in e-commerce. IKEA now, and that's more than 35% they just announced when you realize the importance of physical stores of IKEA. Yes, and it leads me to a sub-question that is, as a matter of fact, with the COVID crisis, more and more people started buying online. 47% of the millennials that buy through social media, and it's also open to types of people because people couldn't get out anymore and buy things. So today social media contribute a lot to influencing what people buy. Before it was people in our surroundings, now it's the social media. And yeah, it's not only a matter of generation. Maybe it was more the millennials before the COVID crisis, but it's not anymore the case. It concerns everybody. And then there will be different issues. There will be issues of tracking to understand where it comes from. Those are the future issues. At Core Square, we are a platform of influence, of marketing influence. We help brands to position themselves. We realize today that e-commerce and influence are getting closer and closer. We've just developed and put in place huge features of affiliation from the tool to do the tracking. As a matter of fact, it goes back to the next question focused on marketing, on influence marketing. The brand strategies. Saying earlier that people asked me what Core Square was about. It's the ideal time to answer this question. Core Square, we are a platform of influence. We help brands to scale up, to become more professional, and we give them the tools to do all of that, because realize that the brands need to exist to create a relationship with a community. And social media, that's the typical place to create that relationship between the brand and consumers. But I think that the top-down approach of brands that existed some years ago doesn't work anymore. It's, say my washing powder washes better. It's people do not want to listen to that anymore. On social media, people want to see things more agile, more instant. And we saw that during the first lockdown. The brands that were very strong were strong because they reacted very quickly, and social media enables enable brands to react quickly. They react to the situation, and so they existed. They created a true relationship that was sincere because there weren't hours of communication before. So they created a sincere relationship with their community, and it's very important. And the influence, that's a perfect vector, because influencers have got a community that they've created for years, that follow them every week. People follow them. They get to learn, to get to know them. So influencers have got that, and they've got credibility. And that's where we've got to pay attention. But influencers is credible in a number of fields. they've created credibility vis-à-vis their community. If the brand manages to, you know, integrate itself between the influencers and their communities, and if the brand uh, finds that territory of conversation where the brand is legitimate, the influencer is legitimate, then it's great because the community is going to understand the association. For the brand, it's great because the influencer is going to bring about that legitimacy, and it means the brand will be better known, will be considered to be more legitimate. So people get closer to the act of buying. And in influence marketing, we see a lot of companies that use influence marketing for awareness purposes, but as they've become more mature and more credible, it's become for them a lever of sale. They go from one to the other. We've got plenty of NVPs as customers who do 70-80% of their strategy based on influence marketing. And well, 70-80% of their budget is for influence marketing because they've reached this level of maturity that is such that they're legitimate on social media. As for live shopping, realize that very often in live shopping, it's an influencer, somebody who takes the floor, and all of the values you were talking about, authenticity, credibility, spontaneity, you find it in live shopping. It's a true question. During the COVID period, there was not one day when there was not an advertiser saying, live shopping, does it work? Is it worth it when you see what's going on in China? Because 2 years ago, live shopping was only in China, in Asia, let's say. We've seen that it came to Europe quite rapidly, even though in France it's not a mega trend yet. It's something that most brands have tried and tested. We can see that in China it represents more than 5% of e-commerce, so it's huge. Live shopping in China, that's more than 50% of e-commerce in France, proportionally. We know that all trends that we see in Asia do not necessarily come to Europe or to the US, or at least not right away. For live shopping, I think it's a true trend, and as you were saying, it meets issues of authenticity, um, um, and instead of doing of wondering whether advertisers should do live shopping or not, I ask them. I ask my advertisers, why do you want to do live shopping? It's not enough to say because it worked in China. How do you want to do it? If you have a live on Facebook, you've got to create an experience that is such that people will stay 40 minutes on your content. We know that in digital, to capture the attention of someone for some seconds, it's already fantastic. It doesn't mean that keeping someone's attention for 30 to 40 minutes is not possible, but is that you have got to think about what you want to have in your live shows in textile, around new collections. There are unique experiences that are developed with interviews, with behind the scenes, with runaways. So it's a true unique experience. If it's just to present products, well, it's going to be more complicated to capture people's attention. And what we realized is, as it was a new trend, teams have learned a lot along the way working with advertisers. We always tell them do test and learn, but we did that. We did it with them because there was nothing that there weren't any rules. And today we have developed a certain knowledge of it. we are capable of saying, as I was saying before, we've got to think about why we do it, what we put in it, because a live event is not when it starts. There's a whole preparation uh, for at least several days with a phase of teasing. We've developed new features, especially on Instagram, with countdowns in stories, etc., or in the feed, and you can enroll to have a reminder when the event takes place. There's at the time of the live event, and you've got to think about an organic strategy. There are people from your community who will come, and we realize that um, such events have got to be sponsored to be efficient. And very often, I challenge advertisers to compare, the production of the live, where it's going to cost them, with what they may spend in, making it, a successful event. Because maybe you should keep a media budget to make sure that you've got enough people who watch your live event. And a live event, it's something that you can use again. You can use the content again on Instagram, TV, on different platforms. So it is an experience that you've got to apprehend in its globality. And I think that any brand has got the means, because once again, you've got to create an experience that will, make people stay for several minutes. It's not about, taking your phone out only, at least not when you are a renowned brand. And I'm sure it's a trend that is going to continue to develop, and I think it's going to be a true catalyst of the acceleration of this trend is the development of native payment that will allow within our platforms on Instagram and Facebook, at the same time as I have my live event, I may have, underneath my product catalogs, and people will be able to buy in a few clicks instead of having to go back to the merchant site. And we work also with on the integration with messaging platforms, so that people can, have a discussion with somebody from the customer department. It's a super side way. The next question: what are the good practices? Because we're talking about the fact that live shopping is not for everybody, that you've got to find the right influencers. So what are the good practices to adopt with social media? It depends on the size also, the merchant, I guess. There's size and maturity. There's two things that are to be considered. You were saying, yeah, I want to do a live shopping event, but I don't know what my goal is. I've never done anything on social media. Or I want to activate an influencer to see how it works. It's not a good start. Goals have got to be in consistency with the objectives of the brand on the social medium. So you've got to find the right one. You've got to know what is the topic that you want to address. Social media for that are demanding. If you're not credible, if your brand is not credible, you can't expect a very good effect. I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah, in relation to that, when we talk about maturity, the maturity of a brand is not at all related to the size. I can mention plenty of brands, DNVBs, that are much more mature on our platforms than many big traditional brands that find it difficult to ensure that digital transformation. In terms of good practices, it depends on that level of maturity. I can't give the same advice to somebody who's not on our networks yet than to a company that is on our networks but that doesn't do much, or to a company that is on our networks and use them. Uh, or somebody like Carrefour, who is a very mature advertiser. So if we take the average people who are on our platforms, who do things, but who could ramp up, I think that the first piece of advice, and it's not entirely tangible, it's more a mindset to have, is the one of test and learn. There's a strength on digital and especially on social media, is that you can test plenty of things where traditional marketing channels do not allow for it. You want today testing on TV, it's going to be very expensive. If you want to be on TF1 or M6, same thing for paper. So today, any brand can do the testing of all kinds on social media and learn a lot quicker. A traditional marketing campaign on TV or on the radio is not going to allow you to be as quick and is more costly. So that's the first thing, mindset. Second is we talk a lot today about the evolution of the ecosystem, different policies of the browsers who will, remove third-party cookies. But what is left for me that is key, I think, is creativity. You may have the best technical integration, have prepared for post-cookie life, etc. Have the best people in your teams to do acquisition on Facebook, Google. If your creations are not attractive, and it will not convert. And people think about the creative part in the top of the funnel, but one shouldn't forget that creativity is also to be worked in the bottom. And when you do e-commerce, it's not about having an object on a white background and a sticker. There are plenty of things that can be done to improve conversion. That's the second point. A third point, that's a measurement in digital and on social media. We are lucky enough to be able to measure almost everything, much more than on traditional channels, and in a quicker manner. It doesn't mean that it's simple to measure well on many subjects. Well, if I am e-merchant, I only sell online, so I track rather well what's going on because it's 100% of my revenues. But and the thing is, it's about activating different marketing channels. It's difficult to know what they bring me. I'm astonished to see still e-merchants who base all of their decisions on last click allocation. We talked about discovery commerce on social media and research commerce on search engines. The allocation by the last click is not a good representation of the value of that commerce. So people now use data-driven models based on incrementality, and even Google, which is mostly search engine, announced the end of last click allocation model on Google Analytics. So that's the third point. There must be others, don't want to get into too many details. It's that subject that I've told you about. I think all marketing, digital marketing professionals are aware, about the disappearance of third-party cookies. It is going to be now on server to server, whatever the size of your business. We still got some months, but it will be necessary. And the last point is to say also that sometimes you've got to know when you are an SME, realize that it's getting more and more complex. You've got to have a good command of controls, influence. So it requires a lot of expertise. So either you use agencies or you insource those skills. And there's a whole ecosystem that is developing. At Facebook, we work with a lot of Facebook marketing partners, and that can be very good solutions to scale one's presence on a social media. You've got to sometimes agree that you can't do everything by yourself, and to be supported for some time at least may help you do things well more quickly, because when you do test and learn, you've got to accept to fail. Maybe not every time, but so yeah, again, creativity, measurement, test and learn to get ready for the future without cookies, and find the right skills and expertise internally or externally. Compliment, I agree with test and learn, and it makes sense with influence marketing, because, well, you've got to find that territory I was talking about, the territory where, as a brand, you will be credible. We realize also that brands that are the most successful maybe did a lot of test and learn before, but they've managed to insource a lot of skills. It's a matter of the relationship with the influencer. It's about being agile with him or her to understand their needs. And the brands that are the most successful are those who have a true relationship with the influencer. And sometimes when there are intermediaries, there are many people who will, present the brand before they get to the influencer, and the influencer may not have understood the objective of his or her mission. So there's an interest in him or her having a very good knowledge of what is expected from him. So you sometimes it's true you've got to be supported to have the right data, and when you do test and learn, not only do the test but also the learn part. Very interesting. It's all we had for today. Thank you a lot for your contributions. It is a subject that we deal with every day. So do not hesitate to search for guidance. Commerce today, merchants who sell online have got at least 3.2 social media to post their presence. So do not hesitate to solicit our friends. So thank you for being here. Have a very good day.